Good morning, all. Suburban Sentinel here, coming to you once again from very deep inside the Arabian Peninsula. This weekend, my wife and I were doing some moderate to long-range planning, and we started to talk about going home. Not just for a visit, but for good. And to be honest with you, it was a great feeling. It wasn't a sure thing going home. Had the Hildebeest won the presidential election and the Democrats not really taken a huge shellacking, we would probably not be going back to the United States. But I'm very happy that I believe now it is a possibility. So in doing our planning, we don't want to get caught in any of the traps that are set for most Americans in this modern world. In other words, we don't want to live like typical Americans, debt slaves, government slaves, and on and on. So assuming that we are going to go back, which is not 100%, but pretty certain, thank God Trump won, we came up with a few rules on how we will live back in America, and perhaps some of these are worthy of your consideration as well. First rule is we are going to stay in an area of relatively low population density. The exurbs, rural, country, whatever you want to call it, someplace where there's not too many people per square mile. Now, as happy as we are that Trump won, I don't think everything is going to be wine and roses in America for a substantial period of time. I think we're looking at least pockets of civil unrest, political, economic, social strife, and we prefer to be in an area, small number of people, everybody kind of knows each other, and everybody has guns. I think the cities are a big mistake, either moving to or staying in them. I would get out as soon as possible and not go back. I think just the cities and probably even the suburbs, not the best choice at this moment in time. Second rule, live debt-free. There is a global debt problem, and this applies to governments, to businesses, and individuals. The world is awash in far too much debt, far more than could ever be paid back. And at least personally, I do not want to be a debtor to anyone, to any corporation, to any individual, and especially not to any government agency. I think it is important to stay debt-free in these current times. And we can go into all that, but I'll have to do that in a separate video. I know debt can be leveraged for good, and I have done that. I've used student loans and home mortgages. But in this environment, I think it is absolutely best to stay debt-free. Third rule, we will, to the best of our ability, limit our involvement with all levels of government, including federal, state, and local. Governments are good at two things: taking your wealth and taking your freedoms, neither of which is appealing to me. So if, and hopefully when we return to America, we will go to a place that has very limited services and therefore very limited government. I want the fewest possible contacts with all government agencies. Rule number 4, avoid the big banks. Why? The banksters, along with their government cronies, are very good at transferring our wealth to themselves. So we want to avoid the big banks to the maximum extent possible. First, of course, do no business with them if you can avoid it. Hopefully you don't have a mortgage with one of the big banksters. Also, keep a little bit of money in either a local bank or a credit union. Don't use those big banks, the JP Morgans and the Bank of America and Citigroup and all those guys. Keep it in a local institution. And the vast majority of your wealth do not keep in cash at all. We keep mostly gold and silver, and for God's sakes, don't keep it in a bank safety deposit box. The big banks especially will be more than happy to liberate the things in your safety deposit box if and when things hit the fan. So again, small local banks, credit unions, and not keeping a lot of cash on different accounts is a good thing as well. Fifth and final rule, have an exit strategy. And God forbid, but just in case it happens, if things really go south in the United States, we want to be able to get out quickly. We have several other countries on our list of places we could go if things really got ugly in the U.S. And for us, we wanted to be able to unask from America within a reasonable amount of time. And for us, that's about 10 days of deciding to leave and being gone, and probably gone for good. Now, that may sound very difficult if you have things to sell, such as real estate, automobiles, but that, trust me, can be done. If not directly, through powers of attorney and all kinds of other reasonable ways of doing things. So again, have an exit strategy. So there you have our 5 rules for living in America going forward in these tumultuous times. I hope these were of some help to you, or at least gave you something to think about. Thanks for watching. Again, this is the Suburban Sentinel. Please thumbs up, share, and subscribe if you like what you see. I'd love to hear any other ideas you folks out there in YouTube land might have. Questions, enlightening comments, and differing opinions are always welcome. Be safe back there, everybody.